Okay, so on to part two. If you haven't already watched part one of this video, it's just me kind of doing a recap of year of 2015 in review. Kind of go over and over some of the rough stuff that I went through this year. Some people may say, Scott, why are you putting together a video that's just kind of all this negativity? I think it's really good to always log sometimes some of the worst parts of your life on film or in a journal or on a blog because when you hit another bad time in your life, and you will, because like I said, it's hills and valleys, life goes up and down, you can compare it and you can say, it wasn't as bad as this time. I really need to, keep a stiff upper lip and power through it because remember how bad 2015 was? This is not that bad. And really, all these same things can't happen again in this year, or the upcoming year, or any year in the future, because all these things either can't possibly happen twice. Like, my grandmother can't die twice, okay? So it's not ever going to be like this again. I guess that's the good thing. That's the positive aspect that comes out of this, that I can bring away from this, that all this combination of bad stuff happening all at once won't happen again, and I'll have something to compare this to when bad things do happen again. And it personally helps me. It may not help you. Sorry if it doesn't. But it personally helps me keep myself together when it gets to harder times again. I've done that with some of my older videos too in the past. I've got 700 to log at this point, and I can really see a progression of my own life and where I am now and what I was doing back then and what I was into back then or what I looked like back then or all different types of stuff. And I think that's half the reason that anybody makes YouTube videos, is to log their own life. So getting back into it, and I apologize if this isn't esoteric to Japan enough for you, these videos, but I really feel like I would like to start doing an end of the year rant type video, if nothing else, to at least get a video up here during the week, because I've skimped on videos during this holiday week, which, as you can probably imagine, as the holidays grow closer and we get closer to Christmas and New Year's, which, yes, I do celebrate, it does get harder and harder for me to make these videos. I think every year's like that. I think every YouTube channel's like that. Almost all the YouTube channels I watch too haven't been putting out as many videos. Anyway, let's get back into it. I ended my last video talking about, yes, my 101-year-old grandmother died this year, on top of everything else that happened. Awesome woman. I would like to use this video here because I don't want to just end it talking about her at the end of the last video. I would like to use this one here to just talk a little bit about her life, and what she meant to me. She was an awesome lady. She grew up during the Great Depression in America. So poor during the time that she grew up that her family literally did not have actual money to spend on food, to get food from the grocery store. The government gave them these plastic chips, and I remember she gave me one time a folder in which she had actually saved these plastic chips, and they're in weird shapes like hexagons and squares and triangles, yellow, green, and red chips. And they had an amount of money written on them that she could turn them in. I guess they were the equivalent to what today is food stamps, but pretty much everyone everywhere had to use these, and they could only get certain specific things. Like it said, 5 cents only for bread, 5 cents only for condensed milk. And I remember her telling me how one time when my mom was making a cake, she pulled out a can of condensed milk and started to pour it in to like mix up the cake and everything. And she's like, "Oh yeah, condensed milk. It's funny, when we were little kids, this is like dessert for us." And I thought, like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Like, an ingredient from a cake is what your dessert was when you were a little kid? Like, just one part of it? Like, that'd be saying, like, I took the sugar bag and just started eating sugar out of it. Like, you're like, yeah, but that's crazy, right? Like, that's just you screwing around or fooling around with just some ingredients before you pour them in with your mom and make a cake, right? And I came to understand as I got older, because I was like 5 or something when I heard my grandmother say this, that no, they were actually that poor that that's all they could get was condensed milk for a treat. If you don't know what condensed milk is, it's pretty much like, how do I describe condensed milk? It's like milk condensed down to its most sugary, syrupy form, like almost like a syrup of milk. Um, I mean, I guess it would taste pretty good to eat raw, but if you were eating it out of a can, you would look like you're from a third world nation. And that's pretty much what my grandmother was living like back then. Um, she grew up right after World War II. think she was one of 11 children. Her father died super early um, in a steel mill accident. A steel beam or something fell on her father, killed him when she was super young. Her oldest brother in the group of brothers and sisters that she was part of had to become the man of the family, had to earn all the money, and they lived a very, very hard life. She eventually bought her own house with her husband when they were really young. I think they were still like in their 20s. And it was, she bought it for $3,000. $3,000, which is just amazing to me. A house, an entire house for $3,000. It's just to give you an idea how much things have inflated since then. I mean, you couldn't get, you could barely pay rent for 2 or 3 months for $3,000 these days, and that's incredible. She bought an entire house. It was a nice house too, and she lived in it all the way until the day we moved her into a nursing home. And she wasn't in a nursing home until she was like 98. That's when she really started to kind of like lose her facilities, as far as like she started to repeat herself a lot and tell us the same stories over and over again. And even when she was like that, I would go visit her just so I could hear these stories. And even if she was going to tell me the exact same story again after she had just told me, I would listen, because I feel like people who have lived such a long life like that have so many lessons to teach you. There's two different things in life. There is book smarts, and there's intelligence, and then there's life smarts and wisdom. And that's what all very old people have. And it's something that we should not take for granted and try to learn as much as we can about. When people here in Japan tell me World War II stories, because there's still a lot of people alive from World War II here in Japan, because people live a very long time here. I listen. My own mother-in-law has stories of how she was a little kid during World War II, and she said one time, she told me one story about how American bombers were flying over and shooting different parts of the area that she lived in, and that one time a plane flew close enough where the pilot could actually see that she was a little girl running through like a rice field. And because he saw she was a little kid, she didn't shoot. And she realized then just like how insane war was, that like you could actually have a moment of clarity, like a moment of humanity, even in this war-torn country that she was living in at the time. So I mean, it's pretty insane. I mean, and what an incredible story. She can't read about that in any book. She can't learn about that from going to school. That's her life, and she's telling me about it, and it's really interesting. It's interesting to actually hear, not just like accounts written in a history book that you have in school. It's interesting to actually hear firsthand stories of people who lived through these most momentous moments of history. And I think that's something we should never take for granted from any elder who wants to tell us a story about their life. Sit down, listen, pay attention, and do your best with the next generation to not copy these mistakes that you hear about. And I'm not saying the old people are making mistakes. I'm just saying the mistakes that were made during history during this period. I'm not blaming my grandmother for the Great Depression. So that was another thing that I went through that was rough, that I'm still kind of like, even as I talk about it now, I get choked up, because she was an awesome lady. She was the nicest person you would have ever met, and she could clean a house that was to the godly level. It was insane. When she was even 80 and 90 years old, she was still cleaning her house by herself, to a point that like you just wonder how someone could get it that clean. Like you'd open any drawer in the house and everything would be organized, and like even like the carpet like didn't have footstep or a footprint in it, or like even like it looked all like it was perfectly groomed. It was amazing. And she would tell us that because she was so old, she couldn't clean like she used to. Like she used to. I can't imagine how she used to clean. Like what? Would everything turn into gold after she'd finished? Like I couldn't understand it. It was amazing. So another very hard part of this year that I had to struggle with. As soon as that finishes, my wife starts getting into this kind of depression because she wants to take my son out of Juku. And if you don't know what Juku is, it's cram school in Japan. It's not something we really have in America. We don't really have this cram school. So giving her my own input on it is very hard. She kept asking me, because Juku is very hard for kids when they're this young as my son is. He was 4, just turned 5 on December 1st, and Juku is like school after school that you study very hard for to get ready for the entrance exams at the next level of schooling. So elementary for my son because he's in kindergarten now. You usually go for 4 years of kindergarten in Japan, sometimes 3. Sometimes kids don't even start till elementary school, and they take these entrance exams to get into good elementary schools. And that's what he was doing. He was doing really well. He was doing actually surprisingly well, like way more intelligent than I ever was at that age. But at the same time, it was a lot of work and it was a lot of stress. And we were starting to see it in our son that like doing the school after school was kind of making him tired. And my wife went to me about it. She's like, "How do you think I should quit it? Should I stop doing this?" Like, my son would actually ask to study and partake in the different tests and classes and everything, and enjoyed it, and even talked about it in an upbeat mood. But my one son, the younger one, is this kind of like I do whatever the hell I want kind of kid, and screw everyone. I'll tell you exactly how I feel. And our older kid is the type that wants to make mom and dad happy. And that's cool. That's great because you have a really well-behaved kid, but then you also have a kid who can sometimes put their own selves through more stress than they need just to please the parent. And as a parent, it's your responsibility to see that because a kid at that age doesn't even understand that that's what they're doing. And that's something we had to come to terms with and take him out of Juku because of that, because we felt like he was stressing himself out too much. And at 4 years old, turning 5, it's too early for that shit. You got plenty of time to be stressed out when you're an adult, right? So we took him out of that, but my wife, and I mean, she is still at war with herself for this. She is having a lot of trouble dealing with the fact that she spent all this time preparing for these tests with him in this school and getting him ready for this stuff. And now she's got to kind of toss it all out the window. I mean, he's still studying, he's still doing a little extra stuff on the side, but it's nowhere near as much as he was doing with this Juku class, which she would prepare him for every time that he would go each week, twice a week. So she's like really torn up about it right now, and it's hard for me to comfort her during this time because, like I said, in America, we don't have Juku. We don't have the equivalent to cram school in America. So trying to give her advice about this kind of thing is difficult. I can't be there for her in the sense of giving her some kind of cathartic release from having made this decision. She's got to talk to her own Japanese friends, but even then it has to be people that are in the same situation of having a kid of that same age in Juku. So it's kind of a difficult struggle for her to get through. She's getting through it gradually, little by little. She's learning that my son is a lot less stressed out and living a much happier life because he can totally chill out and play around and play games. Now he is going to start another Juku that has a different learning system that's based around just doing fun games and stuff like that and building arts and crafts. It's way more relaxed and way more set back as far as what they do to test the kids and things like that. They make it all fun and games and stuff. It's a certain type of learning system. It's actually based on an American learning system that this one kid psychologist came up with. It's pretty interesting. I read into it a little bit, but she seems to be happy that he's going to be joining that, but she's still stressed out in between the, I guess, kind of transfer from this school to that school. So I'm dealing with that on top of all this happening at the same time. And then during that, I have a little bit of time each night. I usually have about 2 or 3 hours each night to myself. That isn't for work, for school. And speaking of which, as you may know, when I quit my one job, I started my own little school on the side, which I then later had to shut down because the place that I was renting was through my sister-in-law. And after she kind of turned on us with the whole, saying that we betrayed her kid and her and that we're assholes and treated her family horrible, which, I mean, no good deed goes unpunished. We took care of her kid, and that's what she's angry at us for. I decided it would be best if I didn't have any kind of business dealings with her because from what I can tell at this point, she's kind of a sketchy person. Anyone who would pretty much blacklist you from their own family after you took in their kid and took care of all their living expenses for free. Their care, their schooling, everything for 2 months, just out of like, I felt like it was the duty as a family to do so. Um, I can't really trust somebody like that would turn on me like that would suddenly like blacklist me from their family and be like, hey, I'm not cool with you anymore because you didn't agree to my terms of my kid living with you for free for 3 years. So that is a clear example of someone showing their true colors, and you then realizing, or I should say me then realizing, that holy shit, having any kind of business dealings with this type of person is, doing bidding with the irrational. So I took all my stuff out of the apartment that I was sharing. She was renting it on the side just as a place that she could crash when she has a late night and doesn't feel like going home, because she works late at our CEO job, like I said. And I was using it on the side during my free time from my other job that I was working as an artist, and on another school on the side, to run my own little school. And I decided this is not the best idea, and I let my students know that in the future I will be opening another school. I actually am set to, I don't want to say inherit, but have some apartments come into my property in the future. It's pretty much written into the will of some of the my wife's side of the family, and when that does happen, I'll be opening the school again in those apartments that I inherit because they're in a business slash residential area. Um, in the meantime, some of the students were okay with coming to my house now, where they can take the classes, which, as you just saw with my last video, as it ended, I had one student coming, so that's still happening. But I did lose some, who actually just want to come to a school instead. And you've got to understand this is for privacy reasons. Some Japanese are very, very strict about how private they are with their life and how private they let your life be as well, which I totally understand. I respect that. It's a business situation, and if they want to hand it in a business way, that's totally understandable. You know, there was no hurt feelings on any side. The only hurt feelings were me, that I was totally betrayed by my sister-in-law and had to take my business elsewhere because I felt like dealing with her as far as paying half rent on a place. Who knows how wrong it could go with her having some aggressions towards us as far as us having to take care of her kid for free. So there was that. On top of it, there's another thing that went down this year that was really hard. I opened and closed a school in a very short time. And okay. And then on top of that, with my 2 or 3 free time hours that I have each day, a new project that I've finally been working on is RPG Maker. Went on sale for $16 on Steam. I constantly check Steam for good video game sales. That had been $69 and is back up to $69, but went on sale for just a short time, so I got it. I was so excited. I've been wanting to make a video game for a long time. I've talked to you guys about this before, but I don't have a huge amount of money to spend on this type of stuff on video games in general. So I don't spend $69 here and there. I don't pay full price for games. Finally got the chance though, because it came out, it released for so cheap, and I started it up finally, and I was making my first game ever. It was a game that was going to be about J-vloggers, just kind of a funny, silly game. I worked 176 hours on it. Now you might wonder, how do I know the amount of time that I was working on it? Well, actually, Steam logs your time that you play a game, and that's the only reason I know that. And then in the middle of it, one day while I was saving, it was taking a while. Like, it was taking a really long time to save. Like, I literally started to save it before I went to bed that night, left it overnight, and was still saving the next day. And like, you see the little rotation thing going and going and going. And I'm just like, okay, this is obviously crashed. It's stuck. I'm gonna lose a little bit of information as far as what I worked on for 2 or 3 hours. Big deal. I'll close the program down with the task manager, reboot it, and get back into the project and just kind of make up for the couple of lost hours. No big deal. So I do that, and I open the project back up, and everything's gone. All 176 hours. The general default stuff is all that's in there that you start every map with, and I'm just like, what? Like, I don't get it. Why is this happening? I check my save folder, and it's not there. it's not on my computer. And so I go to look up this problem online, and apparently this is a problem that happens quite a bit because unlike other video games that you would save on your computer when you have a Steam game downloaded, for some reason RPG Maker downloads to a cloud, and it downloaded to this cloud, and then it couldn't continue to connect with this because we got a new internet service provider, and it totally unable to connect to this cloud again. I lose everything. There's no way to reconnect to it. I've checked every single way possible on RPG Maker's different information sites and all that, and there's just nothing to do. There's no way to take care of this. There's nothing. There's no way to get any of the information back. I checked. Trust me, I went through because, you know, I wanted to figure out some way to get. There's just no way to do it. There's just no way to get this information back. It's pretty common that people have this problem happen, and they tell you that when you download RPG Maker, one of the things that you should have done is turned off the save to cloud setting on Steam, and I didn't do that because I had no idea it was doing that. So, man, that was depressing. Like, on top of everything else, I was so depressed at that point that I literally didn't want to update or touch the internet or touch a video game for just like weeks after that. For just like days, I just sat there like staring at my computer like, fuck. Like, I just, you know, I was blown away. I was like, of all the things to happen this year, of like this year this had to happen on top of all this other stuff. It was just like almost the end of the year. I'm almost finished with this year, and this happens, and I'm just like, shit, man. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, for me, my biggest source of happiness comes from the things I create, these videos I create, the drawings I make for my job, and now a video game that I had worked on for 176 hours. It was gone. So for almost like half a week, I just didn't even touch a computer. I just couldn't. I was still recovering from it this week, and that's why I didn't even make a video. So finally, I just decided, like, I was like, how am I gonna be happy again? How am I gonna like turn my happiness back on? And that was pretty much like, I was like, I just got to start this project again, and that's what I did. I'm literally working on it now, and since it's the weekend right now, I can spin the thing around here. Let's see and show you. Like, you can see I've got my computer open right now. I'm working on the game again, but this time I'm actually working on a horror game based actually on a lot of the stuff that I used to put in Osadoshi videos. And that's another thing is my Osadoshi series kind of petered out there near the end. I lost a lot of the inspiration for it, mostly due to the fact that it has very, very low views. It's not really watched by many people compared to my JFAQs, which I make regularly. And that really, it shouldn't be the reason why I stopped making it. It should never be because of the views. It should be because it's your passion, and it is one of my passions to make that. But I was starting to realize that putting them on the same channel as my JFAQs can be kind of a turnoff for some people. They're mostly there for information about Japan, and not all those same people want to be scared or listen to scary stories or listen to some of the horror that comes out of Japan, which is understandable. Horror is not for everybody. So I've decided in the following year, no, I am not discontinuing Osadoshi Saturday. It will continue on and on and on, probably for as long as I'm alive and making videos. But I think I'm going to be opening a new channel for it. Some people have said, that's confusing, Scott. I don't suggest doing that. But it can't hurt the views at this point. The views are pretty low on it. It's under 1,000 usually for most of my Osadoshi Saturdays. But I just feel like I will put a lot more effort and time in editing if I put it on a channel, number one, that is not connected to my JFAQ one and keeps me on a schedule. And number two, doesn't give me time constraints. I think that was one of the most stressful things about Osadoshi Saturday. Being Osadoshi Saturday means every Saturday I had to put one out, and those took so much time. Like, so much time to the point that, like, after I'd finish all my jobs, my job was then to do Osadoshi Saturday, and I literally just wanted to veg out in front of my computer and watch either videos or play a video game. I didn't want to sit down and be on a time schedule for something else after 3 time schedules through the day. And that's what I've decided I need to do is I need to make another channel for it that doesn't have time constraints. It's still going to be called Osoroshi Saturday. I'm still probably going to release them on Saturdays, but I'm not going to make it every Saturday, and I'm not going to give myself any time limits on how long I can work on a video. At the beginning of the year, I was making those 10-minute videos that were like little short movies, and those were so fun to make. They were so enjoyable, but they took so much time. I mean, I was staying up like all night just editing those. Those took so long, and videotaping them took so long. Filming them, I mean, not videotaping. We're not using tapes anymore. It was exhausting, incredibly exhausting. So, and my health started to suffer because of it. As you could probably go back and watch some of those videos and see, like I look incredibly tired, like I probably do now too. And that's just because my sleep schedule was messed up. I wasn't getting myself enough sleep, and then on top of that, I had one thing where I had mailed off the rest of my drawings and paintings that I had done for my GoFundMe, and I had quite a few of them just returned because either addresses were wrong or they didn't ship to certain areas, and then, you have to figure it out again, what's going on with these packages that you're sending out, and just all these things this year, man. It was incredible how many things went horribly wrong this year. Nonetheless, I guess I can say I powered through them. I made it through it. I fought my copyright strike. I found myself a new job. I mean, the most important thing at the end of the day with all the bad things that can happen to you is that you get out the other side of them. That you get through them, push through the really dark parts of it, and then get out to the other side and live to tell. Survive another day. It makes you stronger. And like I said, you can compare it to things in the future then and say it's not as bad as it was during this time. So that's my whole year in review. It was a struggle. I can say it's going to end on a happier note because right now I am in a job where I am very happy. I'm working with awesome people that, I literally show up and sometimes feel better at my own job than I do at home because it's less stress. And that's not saying my home life is stressful. It's just raising two little kids is, a normal amount of stress. Taking care of two little kids. But the thing is, I do know with taking care of two little kids that there is like a time limit on it. They eventually become older kids who eventually help you out more than you help them. So, that being said, that is an end to the year of 2015. Very glad to be ending this year. Very much so looking forward to 2016. It can't be nearly as bad as this year. And I'm looking forward to starting some new things like the new channel for Osoroshi Saturday, for getting back into a new flow and schedule for JFAC. And one new thing I would also like to start, I think every weekend I'm noticing I'm doing these longer videos, these rants. I'd like to just cover JFAC, of course, only covering Japanese stuff, but these rants, I'd like to cover more international stuff. I'd also like to cover some YouTube stuff, just like, YouTube things going on, fights between different channels, not drama type stuff. I'm talking like literally exposure, like how much one's being seen over another. And just different events or things that people are talking about. For example, the Sam Pepper thing with the terrorist video type thing where his friend gets killed in the video and people were really upset about that. I'd like to talk about my feelings on that because as I am part of the YouTube community, I do have a sort of input on that kind of stuff. And I think my 2 cents are so shiny and I'd love to share them with you. So just stuff I'd like to talk about like that is kind of more international. So I think I'll be using Saturdays for something I'm going to call Unrestology, and it'll pretty much be like laundry videos that Give Me a Break Man makes, where he just kind of covers a bunch of topics that are all around the board. Of course, there'll be some Japanese stuff in there. Actually, probably be quite a bit of Japanese stuff because it'll be covering stuff in my own life, which of course is constantly related to Japan, me living in Japan. So don't feel like you're going to watch that and totally lose out on any Japanese stuff. You'll get updated on a lot of what's going on in my town, my life, my situation here, and all that type of stuff. And some people want to be updated even on the stories that I talked about this time. Like a lot of people, surprisingly, even wrote me private messages that they wanted me wanted to be updated on the issue with my sister-in-law and me taking care of her kid and stuff like that. And and I'm thankful for that. That's a lot of support. That makes me feel better. That helps me have to think about it more and explain it more. And then when I do stuff like that, I've processed it and I've been introspective on it, and I think it helps my life. So, at the same time, I think giving a clear view of my own struggles and things in Japan gives other people a clear view of what their life could possibly be like with some of the struggles they would go through when they got to Japan. So that's what my channel has always been about, giving a real and very accurate picture of Japan, not just a sugar-coated version. So I think it can only benefit the community that watches my channel now. Hence, I'll be starting from doing JFAC. It will continue on. I would like to get as many as 2 a week if I can. And then Unrestology will be every Saturday, maybe. I'm not going to stick myself on a schedule because, quite honestly, I make this channel to have fun and enjoy. I don't make a lot of money or I mean I make a little bit of money. I haven't checked actually in a long time how much this channel's made. It's not done for money is what I'm trying to get across, even though there's people out there who think YouTube delivers money bags to us just because we have channels. Unless you have 1 million+ subscribers, you're barely making, a red cent on your YouTube channel. So that being said, I think I got to end the video here. I want to thank everyone this year just for all the encouraging messages that always keep me doing this channel. People's input on my own difficult situations that I describe, because even if I don't comment back to you, I am reading those. I am constantly reading those. I am constantly checking comments. I know I don't respond back to everything, and I know actually I was horrible this year about getting back to a lot of people and a lot of different stuff. So I wanted to get back to all of you on all that and update all of you on all my situation and do a year in review. One other video I'd like to do, I didn't cover it in this one. I thought I was going to, but it wouldn't make sense to. There's a new movie coming out about Aokigahara, the suicide forest, just called The Forest. And people are asking me my opinion on it. Quite honestly, I think it's going to be a pretty crap movie, but I don't want to tell about that in this video. I think I'll just keep this one my year in review video. So I'll end it here. Thank you so much for everything this year, for the gifts some people sent, for the encouraging words, and just the continuing watching of my channel and supporting my channel. It's more important to me than you guys will ever understand, maybe, or not maybe that you'll ever understand, more than I can ever get across in words, is what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying my fans lack a deficit of knowledge or understanding. I'm saying that I myself lack the amount of words or the self-expression to get across how much all you guys mean to me, your subscriptions mean to me, your comments mean to me, your just overall interaction, even criticisms that help improve the channel are welcomed and appreciated, and you guys are appreciated, and I hope you all have a great holiday, a great new year. And I look forward to you all joining me in 2016 when I start some of the new stuff up on this channel. Of course, I'll continue to update throughout the rest of this month, but expect the videos will be lagging as, we get into the holiday, families coming over here to my house. It's going to be very busy. So thank you so much. Have a great one, and I will talk to you next time.